Hey everyone, how's it going? Forrest here, again with another installment of my complete analysis of all of J.S. Bach's chorale harmonizations. Today we're looking at Hast du denn Jesu dein Angesicht gänzlich verborgen, which translates to, have you then, my dearest Jesus, hidden your face completely? All in all, this is a pretty straightforward chorale. It's a short one, both in terms of its form and the fact that it's in 3/4 time, so we're not analyzing as much proportionately in each measure, because Bach's 3/4 chorales generally don't subdivide the beat as often as, or subdivide the harmonic rhythm as often as his common time chorales. So that being said, we should probably just hop right into the analysis. So we have two flats in the key signature. We start on B flat, we end on B flat. I reckon we're in the key of B flat, and our first cadence, which is a longer phrase, ends in a perfect. It's a perfect authentic cadence in the key of B flat. So we start off with our B flat major chord, and then we get the same chord again on beat 2. We then get A, C, F, and F, which is F major over A. That's 5 in first inversion. We then get B flat, F, and D, which is another B flat major triad in root position. We then have some passing tones here, some delayed passing tones in all the voices, and you know, if you see all the voices moving, generally there's a passing chord going on. Not always, but usually. So we have A, C, F, and C, which is another first inversion F major triad, so that's 5, 6. And then we get an interesting chord. We get G, D, G, and B flat, and we'd be tempted to call this 6, which I think is okay. You know, G minor, the chords are effectively doing the same thing. However, I think what's actually happening here is that this D is an accented non-chord tone, and it's this E natural that's the interesting tone here. I think it's E, G, and B flat, which is E diminished, and that is 7, 6 of 5, E diminished over G, which is the leading tone chord to our dominant F major. And I think that makes sense because if we look at this fragment here, because we end on F major here, F, F, C, and A, which is our 5 chord and root position, we know that a common chord progression in Bach's vocabulary is taking two chords that have the same structure but are voiced differently or rotated differently. So in this case we have a first inversion 5 chord, and here we have a root position 5 chord, and they're usually separated by or sometimes they're separated by a chord that is one below it, or one diatonic step below it in first inversion. So if we thought of this in the key of F, we'd have 1, 6, 7, 6, 1 in root position, and that's a common progression that we get in Bach, which makes me think that really this is a 7, 6 of 5 rather than a 6. But they're more or less achieving the same thing, so I think both analyses are valid. So here we get another interesting progression here. So here we have C, F, C, and B flat. I think this B flat's an accented non-chord tone, and it's this A we're looking for here, which effectively just takes our root position F major triad and turns it into second inversion. Kind of unusual. And then we have E flat, A, C, and G, and similar to the previous beat, I think this G is an accented non-chord tone, and this just takes this F major triad, turns it into a 7 chord, and puts the 7 in the bass. So this would be taking the 5 chord and turning it into 4/2. So all we need to do is just change the figure bass here, which is interesting. We then have D, B flat, F, and B flat, which is B flat major in first inversion, and we would expect a 5/4/2 chord to go to 1/6, so this is a good sign. We then have C, E flat, G, and C, and depending on how you look at this, you might call it a 2 chord if you look literally on the downbeat, but I think this G is an accented non-chord tone. It's really A, C, E flat, which is A diminished over C, which is 7, 6. And similarly to this 5, 7, 6 of 5, 5 pattern, we have 1, 6, 7, 6 going to 1, B flat, F, B flat, and D, with a couple of non-chord tones on 3 and. So this pattern, it's not always with tonic triads as well. Sometimes we see it with 4 chords, sometimes we see it with other chords as well, but this is a common pattern, common chord progression in Bach's music. We then have F, F, A, and C, which is a root position F major triad. Then we get E flat as kind of a passing tone here. It's more of like it's not really a passing tone because it's on the harmonic rhythm. So really I'm just going to change the figured bass here. But yeah, it's kind of like a passing tone. If this were in 4/4, this might be a couple of eighth notes over quarter notes, or in compliance with some quarter notes in the other three voices. But then of course we cadence on 1, B flat, D, F, and B flat, our tonic triad. So this next cadence is interesting. We have another subdominant cadence. I'm going to call it an imperfect authentic cadence in the key of E flat, even though it doesn't sound like we've modulated. It's just the vocabulary we have, and I'll refer to it as a subdominant cadence where we go from 1 to 4 in the key of B flat. But because that's not typically something you'll find in the textbook, I'm just going to call it an imperfect authentic cadence, even though we know that that's not necessarily what's happening. It's just one outlook on it. So we have B flat, D, B flat, and F, which is another tonic triad. Notice it's a new system, so I remark the Roman numeral because it's we're scanning across the page. If this happened on the same system, I wouldn't reanalyze it. We then have C, E flat, A natural, and E flat, which is A diminished over C again. And then we have a passing tone here in the melody, and then we would expect this to go to 1/6, right? B flat, F, B, F, and D, F, F, and B flat. The C is an accented non-chord tone, so that would be 1/6. And if we were thinking about this in the key of E flat now, we could call this 5/6 because B flat is also the dominant of E flat, and we can treat this E flat like our tonic: E flat, B flat, and G. And it would be imperfect authentic because the melody does not contain the tonic of the chord. But we just end up going right back to B flat afterwards and calling this 4, which honestly what I think is happening here is that if we are in the key of B flat, it's just 1/6 going to 4. So that's what it sounds like more so to me, but there's really not really cadential language that exists in the world to describe this. We have to use our words, but I think a subdominant cadence is pretty accurate. Okay, moving ahead to our second to last cadence, it's a half cadence in the key of B flat. So we start off B flat, F, B flat, and D. It's a tonic triad in root position, B flat major. We then have A, G, B flat, and E, but I think this A is an accented non-chord tone. It's really G, G, B flat, and E, which is E flat over G. That's a 4/6 chord. We then have F, C, A, and F, which is F major in root position. That's a 5 chord. Passing 7th in the bass, passing tone in the alto. We then get D, C, F, and F. This C, of course, being a 7/6 suspension over the bass, and really what's being implied here is 1/6. That doesn't resolve until the next beat, but interestingly, we get a rotation. Well, we get a little bit of change of voice. We have F going up to B flat here, and this G is an accented non-chord tone. So instead of getting a 6 chord, right, like a 6/4 chord, which literally happens on the downbeat, it's this F. That's the complete contextualization of the chord, right? D, B flat, and F, which is just the 1/6 that was implied on the first beat. And then we have E flat, B flat, G, and E flat with a passing 7th in the melody. That's just a 4 chord, E flat major in root position. And then we have F, F, A, and C, which is our 5 chord. And the 5, or the 5th of the 5 chord, is typically in the melody during our half cadences. It's kind of a hallmark of the cadence itself. Sorry, the score keeps rotating. It just helps me write. I'll try my best to keep it straight from now on. And our last cadence is a perfect authentic cadence in the key of B flat major. We have D, B flat, F, and F, which is our tonic triad, B flat in first inversion. But interestingly here, look in the bass. We have D, E natural, F sharp, and G. So we have melodic minor here in the bass. So I think we do briefly visit G minor here. I think there is an argument to be made that this is just, we're still in B flat major because it's not very long, but it just makes more sense to analyze this in the key of G minor, knowing what's going on. So here we have E, A, C, and G. Now that could be a 2/6/5 chord in the key of G. However, what I think is more likely is that this G is our non-chord tone, or sorry, this A is our non-chord tone, and this G is the note that's interesting to us. So I think what's really happening is an uppercase 4, and the reason why is because the chord after it, F sharp, E flat, C, and A, is a root position fully diminished 7th chord, F sharp, diminished 7th. So 4 going to 7 is a more likely progression, and if just the difference between the two is this accented non-chord tone, I'm more likely to think this is a 4 chord. But ultimately they're achieving the same thing. A 2-6-5 chord is just a 4 chord, but with an A as its root. So they're very similar chords, just I think it's more likely this is a 4 chord. And with the theme of accented non-chord tones in this chorale in particular, I see that this is it's a likely outcome. But then we get G minor, G, D, B flat, and B flat, which is our tonic, and that's going to be our pivot back to the key of B flat. We'll just call that 6 now. We then get A, C, F, and C, that is our 5 chord, F major in first inversion, which wants to go to 1 in root position, B flat, F, and D, with a non-chord tone in the melody. So that's just our tonic. And as we get ready for the cadence, we have F, B flat, F, and C. This B flat being a suspension, a 4-3 suspension over the bass. It's just a 5 chord that's implied. It resolves on the next beat. We get a delayed 7th on beat 2 and then we cadence on B flat major, B flat, F, D, and B flat, which is our tonic triad, ending in a perfect authentic cadence. So all in all, this has a couple interesting quirks. We have this dominant progression here of 5, 5, 6, 4, 5, 4, 2 going on, which sounds pretty interesting. A subdominant cadence, which is interesting as well. And this little moment right here where we kind of get like a 6, 6, 4, but really what's happening is a delayed resolution to 1, 6. It's just like a prolongation of the fact that there is a suspension going on, and it really gets delayed as far as it metrically can. And then we get a mid-phrase modulation here to the key of G minor, which is interesting as well. But other than that, this was a quaint chorale. It was a quick one. This is going to be my shortest video by a long shot because the content in this chorale is just objectively short, because it's in 3/4 and it's a short form. So I think I'll cap off the analysis with that. Not too much more to discuss. Thank you all so much for watching the video and continuing to support the channel. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited to be going on this journey with a couple of other people, and it makes me really happy that other people are enjoying my videos. So thank you so much for your continued support. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's analysis, and I hope you take care.